Rajab does not arrive loudly. It does not interrupt life. It does not force attention. It enters quietly, like every other month, while routines continue and days move forward. And because nothing dramatic happens, many people assume nothing important is happening. That assumption is where the loss begins. Not a loud loss, not an obvious one, a quiet loss that often goes unnoticed until much later. Rajab passes, calendars change, and life continues. But something subtle slips by without being addressed. What matters in Rajab is not how active you felt. It is not how many reminders you heard. It is what actually shifted inside you, if anything shifted at all. Many people do not lose Rajab because they do not care. They lose it because they misunderstand it. The intention is often sincere, but sincerity without clarity rarely leads where it should. When direction is unclear, effort becomes scattered, and time passes without leaving impact. Rajab was never meant to be confusing, but it often becomes that way. Some people treat it lightly, assuming only Ramadan matters. Others treat it heavily, loading it with expectations it was never meant to carry. Both approaches miss the same point. Rajab is not a destination. It is preparation. This matters more than most people realize. Rajab sits before greater accountability, before fasting, before long nights, before increased discipline. It exists as a space where the heart can slow down without pressure, a space to notice patterns, a space to correct direction quietly before intensity arrives. When that space is misunderstood, preparation does not happen. And the effects do not appear immediately. Life does not collapse. Faith does not disappear. People still pray. They still intend good. But when Ramadan arrives, something feels off. Worship feels heavier than expected. Discipline feels forced. Consistency feels harder than it should. The confusion usually comes later, not now. People ask why a sacred month feels exhausting, why motivation fades quickly, why the heart struggles to keep up. Often, the answer is simple. Preparation was skipped, mishandled, or misunderstood. Rajab was never meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to guide you. It was given to slow you down enough to notice what usually goes unnoticed, to bring awareness back to habits that quietly weaken consistency, to correct small things calmly before larger responsibilities demand more from you. This is why Rajab is described as sacred. Sacred does not mean magical. It does not mean effortless. It does not mean forgiveness happens automatically. Sacred time carries weight. It increases responsibility. It asks for more awareness, not less. Many people hear the word sacred and assume ease. In reality, sacred time makes choices heavier. Actions matter more. Neglect becomes more serious. Obedience becomes more meaningful. When this distinction is missed, Rajab loses its function. Some people expect the month to change them on its own. Others expect to change everything at once. Both expectations lead to disappointment. Rajab was never designed to perform miracles, and it was never designed to carry overload. It was designed to prepare. Preparation is not dramatic. It rarely feels exciting. It often feels ordinary. Small adjustments, quiet restraint, honest reflection. These things do not attract attention, but they shape direction. Rajab works best when it is taken seriously, not emotionally. This means avoiding extremes, not ignoring the month completely, and not turning it into something it was never meant to be. It means responding with awareness not assumption. Awareness of habits. Awareness of priorities. Awareness of limits. Avoiding mistakes in Rajab does not require perfection. It requires noticing. Noticing what weakens you. Noticing what you excuse. Noticing what you delay. If even one thing becomes clearer during this month, Rajab has done its job. Awareness itself is a mercy. A heart that notices is still alive. And a heart that is alive can still change direction. Over the next parts, we will walk through the most common mistakes that quietly waste Rajab every year. Not to judge, not to overwhelm, but to protect what this month was meant to give. Because Rajab does not fail people. It is often misunderstood, and understanding is where preparation truly begins. One of the most common ways Rajab is wasted is not through obvious wrongdoing, but through passivity. Nothing aggressive, nothing dramatic, just a quiet lack of response. The month begins, but life continues exactly the same. This mistake often starts with neglect. Many people acknowledge that Rajab has arrived, but nothing in their routine reacts to it. The same habits continue. The same pace remains. Reflection is delayed. Correction is postponed. Rajab becomes just another name on the calendar. This does not come from disrespect. It usually comes from misunderstanding. Many people believe that only Ramadan truly matters. Rajab is seen as a waiting period, not a preparation phase. So people tell themselves there will be time later. There will be motivation later. There will be seriousness later. That thinking feels harmless. There is no immediate loss, no visible consequence, no sense of urgency. Days pass normally, and responsibilities continue as usual. But the cost of ignoring Rajab does not appear now. It appears later when pressure increases. Rajab was placed before Ramadan for a reason. It exists to prepare the heart gradually. It allows believers to correct habits calmly. It provides space to rebuild discipline without the weight of obligation. When this space is ignored, the heart enters Ramadan unprepared. This is when confusion begins. People expect Ramadan to feel uplifting, but it feels heavy instead. Worship feels forced. Consistency feels exhausting. Motivation fades quickly. Many people wonder why a sacred month feels difficult without realizing the preparation was skipped. Neglect weakens awareness. When sacred time passes without response, the heart becomes comfortable with delay. Repentance is postponed. Correction is pushed back. Over time, this comfort turns into numbness. The heart learns not to react. This is one side of passive loss. The other side is more subtle, and it often looks hopeful. Treating Rajab as a magical month. Some people believe that because Rajab is sacred, things will automatically improve. They assume sins are lighter. They assume forgiveness is guaranteed. They assume effort becomes optional because the month itself carries blessing. This mindset sounds positive, but it is misleading. Sacred does not mean effortless. In Islam, when something is sacred, it carries more weight, not less. Actions matter more. Choices matter more. Accountability increases. Sacred time does not remove responsibility. It intensifies it. When Rajab is treated as magical, responsibility quietly decreases while expectations increase. People wait for the month to change them instead of changing how they live within it. Habits stay the same. Discipline remains weak. Correction is delayed. And when Ramadan arrives, disappointment follows. Time does not purify the heart on its own. Time only reveals what the heart is already willing to do. Without conscious effort, sacred time passes like ordinary time. The label changes, but the direction does not. This mistake often hides behind good intentions. People hope for mercy. They hope for forgiveness. And that hope is valid. But hope without action becomes assumption, and assumption weakens seriousness. Neglect ignores Rajab completely. Magical thinking relies on Rajab to do the work. One wastes the month through absence. The other wastes it through misplaced expectation. Both lead to the same result. Rajab passes and nothing changes. Avoiding these mistakes does not require intensity. It requires response. Acknowledging that the month matters. Making even a small adjustment. Slowing down enough to notice what needs attention. Rajab does not ask for dramatic change. It asks for awareness. Awareness that preparation does not happen automatically. Awareness that time is an amana, and sacred time carries greater responsibility. When Rajab is ignored, preparation never begins. When it is treated as magical, preparation is delayed. But when Rajab is responded to consciously, even lightly, the heart begins to shift. And that shift makes everything that follows easier to carry. After neglect and magical thinking, the next set of mistakes looks very different on the surface. Here, people are not passive. They are active. They are doing things. They are making effort. But effort without guidance can still lead to loss. This is where many people become confused. They feel busy. They feel involved. They feel spiritual. And because activity exists, they assume preparation is happening. But activity alone does not prepare the heart. Direction does. One of the clearest examples of this is inventing new acts of worship. This mistake usually comes from sincerity, not rebellion. People want to benefit from Rajab, so they begin adding practices they were never taught. New routines appear. Special rituals are treated as necessary. Certain actions are given importance without clear guidance. This feels productive, but it is risky. In Islam, worship is not designed by emotion. It is guided by revelation. Sincerity alone is not enough. Correctness matters just as much. When worship is shaped by feeling instead of guidance, confusion slowly replaces clarity. This is not a small issue. The religion was completed. Nothing essential was left out. If specific acts were required in Rajab, they would have been clearly taught. Adding new practices, even unintentionally, suggests that guidance was incomplete. Over time, innovation shifts focus. People begin trusting what excites them more than what disciplines them. Worship becomes about emotional satisfaction instead of obedience. The heart feels active, but it is no longer anchored. This leads to exhaustion. Many people pour effort into invented practices while neglecting what is already required. Obligations become rushed. Foundations remain weak. The heart feels busy, but stability is missing. This connects directly to another common mistake: focusing on extra acts while ignoring obligations. Some people increase optional worship while daily prayers remain careless. Others add voluntary fasting while basic discipline stays weak. On the surface, effort increases. Underneath, responsibility is misplaced. In Islam, foundations come before decoration. No amount of extra worship replaces neglected obligations. Extras are meant to support the foundation, not distract from it. When this order is reversed, growth becomes unstable. This imbalance quietly harms the heart. Extra acts without strong obligations do not strengthen discipline. They exhaust it. The heart senses the disorder, even if the mind feels productive. Rajab exists to correct this order. Sacred time highlights priorities. It slows the believer down enough to see what has been ignored. When extras take priority over obligations, the structure becomes inverted and preparation fails. There is another layer to this problem: increasing worship without increasing restraint. Many people add prayers and good actions in Rajab, but they leave their behavior untouched. The tongue remains careless. Private habits continue unchecked. Distractions are consumed freely. This creates contradiction. Outward actions say one thing, inward discipline says another. Over time, worship feels heavy because the heart is divided. Rajab was given to train restraint before worship increases. It teaches control of impulses before performance of rituals. Without restraint, worship becomes physical instead of transformative. Actions increase, but the heart does not soften. This mistake is subtle. People remember Allah more, but they do not restrain themselves more. They pray more, but they speak harshly. They feel busy, but they remain unchanged. Sacred months expose this tension. Disobedience feels heavier. Bad habits feel louder. Private sins lose their comfort. This discomfort is not punishment. It is awareness returning. When restraint improves, worship becomes lighter. When restraint is ignored, worship feels forced. This pattern is consistent. Innovation, misplaced extras, and lack of restraint all share the same root problem. Effort exists, but order is missing. Activity exists, but correction is avoided. Rajab was not meant to introduce something new. It was meant to restore what was neglected. Focus, awareness, responsibility. These qualities do not feel exciting, but they last. Avoiding these mistakes does not mean doing less. It means doing what is correct. Strengthening obligations, improving presence, reducing what weakens discipline. When effort is aligned with guidance, the heart settles. When effort is guided by emotion, the heart becomes restless. True preparation feels calm. It does not impress. It stabilizes. And that stability is what Rajab was meant to build. After effort becomes misdirected, a different set of mistakes begins to appear. These mistakes are not rooted in neglect or innovation, but in pressure. Modern pressure. The kind that builds quietly and exhausts the heart without warning. One of the clearest signs of this pressure is burnout. Many people enter Rajab with strong intentions. They create long schedules. They set strict plans. They increase everything at once. For a few days, this feels powerful. Progress feels fast. Discipline feels strong. Then energy drops. What began with enthusiasm turns into exhaustion. Consistency breaks. Guilt replaces effort. And many people quietly abandon what they started. This mistake rarely comes from arrogance. It usually comes from fear. fear of missing out, fear of not doing enough, fear of wasting time. So people overload themselves faster than their discipline can support. Burnout does not come from doing good. It comes from doing more than you can maintain. Rajab was never meant to exhaust you. It was meant to stabilize you. It exists to teach sustainable obedience before heavier responsibility arrives. Comparison makes this problem worse. Many people do not overload themselves because of their own needs, but because of what they see others doing. Online routines, shared schedules, public acts of worship. What works for someone else suddenly feels like a standard. Quiet pressure builds. Instead of measuring sincerity and consistency, people begin measuring visibility. They try to keep up instead of build wisely. Worship becomes competitive instead of corrective. This damages the heart quietly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create people with identical capacities. Responsibilities differ. Strengths differ. Limits differ. Ignoring this reality creates imbalance. When people copy without understanding themselves, discipline collapses quickly. The routine feels heavy, motivation fades, and restarting becomes a cycle. This cycle erodes confidence. People start strong, fall behind, restart again. Over time, they stop trusting themselves. Consistency disappears, not because of weakness, but because the approach was never honest. Rajab was not meant to turn worship into comparison. Preparation is personal. What matters is not how much you do, but what you can maintain. A small action done consistently is more valuable than an impressive routine that collapses. There is another mistake tied closely to burnout and comparison: waiting for Ramadan to change you. Many people delay correction, believing transformation belongs to Ramadan alone. Rajab becomes a holding period. Discipline is postponed. Habits are left untouched. The assumption is that motivation will arrive later. This mindset feels reasonable, but it is harmful. Ramadan does not create discipline. It reveals it. Whatever structure exists before Ramadan becomes visible once pressure increases, Rajab exists to build that structure quietly. When people wait for Ramadan to do the work, they place unrealistic expectations on 1 month. They expect sudden change without groundwork. This leads to disappointment and collapse. This pattern repeats every year. Excitement rises at the start of Ramadan. A few days later, exhaustion appears. Guilt increases. Consistency fades. The issue is not sincerity, it is preparation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed Rajab and Sha'ban before Ramadan so hearts could prepare gradually. Change that begins early feels natural later. Change that is delayed feels forced. Burnout, comparison, and waiting all share the same root: pressure without wisdom. Rajab teaches a different approach: to move steadily, to choose what lasts, to begin correction before motivation arrives, to build discipline without performance. Avoiding these mistakes requires patience. It means accepting slow progress, resisting comparison, letting go of urgency that destroys sustainability. Growth is not measured by speed, it is measured by permanence. Rajab gives permission to simplify, to slow down, to focus on what will still exist when energy drops. When this lesson is learned, Ramadan feels manageable. When it is ignored, Ramadan feels overwhelming. Rajab prepares those who move steadily, not those who rush. And steady preparation is what allows faith to grow without breaking under pressure. Rajab does not end with noise. It ends quietly. Days pass. The calendar moves forward. Life continues. And what remains is not what you intended to change, but what you actually corrected. This is where many people realize the final mistake, allowing Rajab to end without any internal change. Nothing visibly collapses. No major sin appears. No obvious failure stands out. But when the month ends, habits remain the same. Awareness has not increased. Discipline has not improved. Direction has not shifted. This mistake is quiet, and that is what makes it dangerous. People may feel they were respectful. They avoided major wrongdoing. They stayed generally consistent. But Rajab was not given to be survived. It was given to be used. Rajab is not measured by how busy you were. It is measured by what changed inside you. If nothing became more controlled, more consistent, or more conscious, then the month passed without fulfilling its purpose. Not because effort was missing, but because response was limited. This mistake often hides behind comfort. People assume that avoiding harm is enough. They believe that because nothing went wrong, something must have gone right. But growth does not happen through neutrality. It happens through intention. Sacred time is meant to leave a mark. Even a small internal shift matters. One corrected habit, one protected obligation, one area of restraint. These changes may feel insignificant, but they signal preparation. When Rajab ends without change, the heart becomes comfortable with stagnation. That comfort carries forward. And when Ramadan arrives, the same patterns repeat under greater pressure. This is when frustration appears. People expect Ramadan to feel different, but the heart was never prepared. Worship feels heavy. Discipline feels forced. Motivation fades quickly. The issue is not Ramadan. The issue is what came before it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives opportunities repeatedly, but each opportunity requires response. When opportunities are ignored without consequence, awareness slowly decreases. Loss does not arrive suddenly. It settles quietly. This is why ending Rajab unchanged is a serious loss. Avoiding this mistake does not require transformation. It requires reflection. Asking one honest question before the month ends. What changed? If the answer is nothing, the opportunity was missed. If the answer is even one small correction, the month succeeded. Direction matters more than distance. Rajab does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to become more aware of who you already are, to notice what weakens you, to correct what you excuse, to strengthen what supports consistency. This month was never meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to prepare you quietly, gently, honestly. Ramadan will arrive whether preparation happened or not. The difference will be felt inside. One heart will struggle to keep up. Another will move steadily and calmly. That difference is built here. Let Rajab end with intention, not assumption. Let it leave behind readiness, not regret. And let what you carry forward be something you can maintain, not something you abandon. Sacred time does not decorate faith. It prepares it. And when preparation is taken seriously, what follows becomes lighter, steadier, and more meaningful.